Hello, welcome to the first session of term one. We're going to use the book Anatomy for Sculptors. It covers everything about a full character, and we're going to go through everything. And if you're going to aim for the realistic models, head, hands, body, anything more specific, I actually recommend you to go to buy the other books of the Anatomy for Sculptors.com, like head and neck, expressions, hands, arms. They have all sorts of books. And each book deep dives into each specific part of the body. So if you're actually going for realistic models, you need to, I suggest you to buy them and study them in detail. But for semi-realistic characters and stylized characters, the first book, Anatomy for Sculptors, actually is enough because we are not aiming for the detail of realism. Make sure to always check the head above the canvas of your ZBrush. It shows that your model is front facing or to the sides or to the back. As you can see, if I click on the canvas and drag my model to rotate it, the model rotating. You don't see it clearly in the sphere. Let me show you with the cylinder. As you can see, when I rotate it, the silhouette also rotate. This is useful because in a lot of scenarios, you need to identify where's the front of your character or your model, where's the sides. It's better to keep things organized. If you, for example, turn it around and think this is the front, for starts, when you activate the symmetry, as you can see, the symmetry is on the other side. As you can see, the symmetry is on the other side. But even in the other programs, when you import your model may be turned the other side, turned around. So you need to fix that in every import. So it's better to fix it in a start in order to avoid the further issues. Let's turn it to the front. I'm going to introduce to you the tools that we're going to use in this course and some useful options of the ZBrush specifically. Of course, everything that we are doing in ZBrush, you can do in Blender. Just the options are different. I don't think you can handle as much as polygons as ZBrush in Blender. So be aware of that. In the later parts of the character creation, you might go open-handedly in ZBrush, but you need to be aware of your polygons in Blender. It's not an obstacle. You just need to be more mindful than ZBrush. In ZBrush, you can just add subdivisions mindlessly, but in Blender, you need to be aware of how much polygons you actually have. It's actually better practice in Blender. You know, in order to create a clean model, you need to start from the very basic. If you look at this sphere, you can actually see the polygons. It means it has a few polygons to work with. And it's the best practice for you 3D artists in order to keep your polygons as low as possible in the starting stage and go up as you're going and progressing further through your project. But how much polygon do you actually need in each stage? It's something you should plan for. Another thing to keep in mind is that throughout this course, you will see that we're gonna start with big shapes, blockouts, and then carve our way through until the details. As I said before, the details are not as much detailed as a realistic model. But still, we need some details in order to make our characters appealing. So never start with a small shape with details. To demonstrate what I'm talking about, if I select the move tool and try to move a part of this model, as you can see with the low polygon, it's easy to move things around and it's easy to smooth them. But if I go up subdivisions, as you can see, it's much harder to move things. And when I smooth, you can see nothing changed. Some of you said that we are going down in the subdivisions, we smooth and go up. Yes, that's true, but we'll lose the details if we're going back up to the upper subdivisions. Okay, the first tool that we are going to use is the move tool. Move tool is actually moving the geometry around. It depends on the size of your brush, obviously. Okay, the next tool is a standard brush. A standard brush is useful for carving details. You can extrude your model, and if you hold the Alt, as you can see, there's a minus on my cursor on my brush that I will carve in. Next tool is Damage Standard Brush. Damage Standard Brush, as you can see, has a small alpha, and it's great for covering the details, a smaller one, or the sharper details actually. Damage Standard default is carving in, is Z sub or minus, or digging into your model, and if you hold Alt, it will actually extrude on your model. The next tool is Clay Brush. Clay Brush is just like the clay in real life. It adds clay on your model. We have a clay buildup tool that is great for adding the volume, but the clay brush is more controlled one. It's great to create the fibers of the muscles on your model or adding the volume with control. But if you want to add volume fast, you can use clay buildup brush. The next tool is the inflate brush. Inflate brush actually giving some volume to the parts of your model. For example, if I sculpt something here, I can use the inflate to increase the volume of this specific portion of my model. You can also use the foam soft brush. It's great for adding the organic volume. I'm not used to use this so much, but it's a great tool. Actually, maybe I consider using it in this course. I don't know. Another great tool is Trim Dynamic. Trim Dynamic, as you can see, can flatten things, trim them in other words. You can see it's great. For modeling the low poly, we can use the Z modeler. It's completely your preference. We can also use Blender or other modeling applications to model. They are actually better in modeling than ZBrush. ZBrush is great in sculpting. But if you don't want to go to the Blender or any other modeling application and you want to do everything inside the ZBrush, you can actually use the Z modeler to model hard surface stuff. Here and on the right, we have the perspective. If I carve something into my model so that you can see, right now we are in the orthographic view. If we activate the perspective, as you can see, we're going into the perspective. It's essential to sculpt in perspective when you're sculpting your character, your head, your model, but sometimes you need to go to orthographic view to check the proportions or things that need actually to be in orthographic view. We have the solo. If I append another tool here, for example, this cone, if I select any of them and go to the solo mode, it's isolating the model. And I can use the transparent, and if I move it to the another model, it's a transparent. As you can see, I just selecting them by clicking on them without selecting them in the subtool list. The trick is holding the Alt and clicking on the model you want to select. I'm holding the Alt and click on any model and it will be selected. This is the subtool palette. You see all your subtools, and we have a lot of useful things here that we are going to make familiar throughout the course. It's hard to explain everything that we are going to use here, and actually I think you're going to forget later down the line. So better to keep things when we need them. Another important thing is stroke, lazy mouse, and I should enable it. But let me explain. Without lazy mouse, I have full control on my mouse and on my pen actually. And if I, for some reason, I want to draw a line and my hand goes like this, everything is carved into my model. If I enable the lazy mouse and the lazy radius is the controlling value, we're going to keep the lazy step on a low value. And with the lazy mouse, as you can see, there's a line before my sculpt is actually carving. And if I want to change the directions, you see, the line goes around, but no actually sculpting on my model. And I have more control this way. But sometimes, for example, if I want to create a hole here, as you can see, it's hard to make a hole. And sometimes we want to make organic shapes, so we don't need that sharp and straight line. I can carve without anything. It's more natural. The thing is, saving your project in ZBrush, saving from here is actually, I don't know if it's fixed or not, but long time ago when I started using ZBrush, saving project sometimes caused the corrupted files. So for example, if you save your project instead of your Z tool or your model, when you try to reload the project, you get the corrupted file and you couldn't recover your model. So I tend to save my model instead of my project. Here is saving your model as a Z tool, and saving your document or project is here. Or if you press Ctrl S, you're gonna save your project, your document, not your Z model. So I recommend you, if you're going to save your model, use the save as in the tool menu to save your Z tool. And later you just need to open your ZBrush and load your model, and everything is here. It's just fine. You don't need to save your project. I don't know, maybe project saving is fixed. The thing I'm telling you is about 6 or 7 years ago. I don't know if it's fixed or not. Here you can change the color that is actually showing on your canvas. You can change your colors with V. Sometimes you accidentally hit a button and your models turned black. It's the V button. You change the colors. We are not going to use the fill object right now, but we can use the lighting here. This is in the light. Yes, here. You can change the direction of the main light to see the shadows, or sometimes if you're checking something here and for example there is too much shadow, you can change the lighting so that you can see things better. And remember, if you're using a matcap material, these are the matcaps. Matcaps don't change the lighting. It's actually the lighting value is hard coded on them. If I change the lighting, nothing changes. You need to use a standard material like a skin shade that I'm using always. This way, if I change the lighting, it actually renders the lighting real time. Okay, I don't remember anything else to tell you right now. Let's start sculpting the blocking of the head, and I will explain other things that we are going to use throughout the course. I think you're going to remember them better that way. So let's start. Continue to the next video. See you there. Bye bye.